most importantly, I want to thank you guys for coming out and, discussing this with me and, being open to the possibility of creating an intentional community. It's awesome. You guys are pioneers, because that's essentially what we are. We are pioneering a new lifestyle for ourselves that that society needs, and we should all be gravitating towards. We're just taking the first step. So, general overview, we want to create an intentional community that provides for all of our basic, needs for life, power, food, shelter, and live in balance with both ecology and technology as much as possible. And do this close enough to Columbia where we can all keep our jobs. So,
bravo! Already.
So anyways, we need to form several committees to explore several different aspects of this project, because this is something that one person alone cannot do. And we all have to band together and put our big brains together and put our collective efforts together to make this happen. So we need an organizational structure committee that will essentially define our legal structure, committee structures, financial structure, legal and taxable status, select and appoint members to serve in official capacities whenever necessary. This committee will be in charge of financing, paying bills, etc. Then we need people with talents, and we need to identify them. So we need a committee of people that I would like to call a member specialist committee. This finds what necessary training and skills do we already have, and what do we need. Do we need to look for some other people that we don't have, maybe don't have enough first responders, maybe don't have an electrical engineer, or et cetera, et cetera. Or it's a civil engineer. You think of several things that we're going to like to do in-house in order to do this for less than the cost of a house on West Worley. You know what I mean? That's the deal. Yeah. So anyways, in addition to those two committees, we need a clean water committee, which is like also a wastewater committee. How do we get our clean water? How do we reclaim our gray water and wastewater? Where are we using composting toilets? What are we doing with our water and wastewater situation that we would need for the infrastructure in a community of 30 to 40 households? Because that's really the magic numbers that make this all, $12,000 down payment-ish and $500 a month or less. Yeah. If we
attractive land you're looking at?
Huh? There's very attractive land on the bluff top, right 1 mile south of Cooper's Landing, 200 acres. that I'm looking at that I'm pretty impressed with. It's more than I budgeted for land, but if we can save money everywhere else, and it's bank owned, and I'm a hell of a negotiator, and I'll get it for us for cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is it in the floodplain though?
No, it's on the bluff, 600 feet above flood stage.
So we can look down on the floodplain.
Yeah, we can look down on the floodplain, and we can't get flooded in because it's at the top where Highway V comes in from Columbia.
So the highway is also several hundred feet above the floodplain.
Exactly.
To stay in the community with hang gliding lessons.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another idea, and everybody, I encourage cottage industries throughout the community. You get an acre and a half to 2 acres, depending on how we decide to split up the land for your own personal home and family. Anyways, so clean water. What do we do with the poo? That's what it's all about. Wastewater, gray water. So then moving on, we need an agricultural committee to plan and implement at least a 10-acre organic community garden.
Yeah.
So that all.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is. I would like to see 5 to 8 members on each committee if possible. Do what you can. If you can devote a couple hours a week to something, or we'll share information through Google Docs or Yahoo groups or something like that, and constantly be working on a project together as a committee. And then every time we have a meeting, we'll talk about what each committee's done and make sure everybody's on the same page and likes what we're doing. So, energy committee. How will we power all this? This committee will locate the most efficient DIY power systems and implement them community-wide. combined wind, solar, geothermal, grid-tied system. So if we can make more than we can use, we can sell it back to Boone County Electric Cooperative. And the site that I'm looking at already has district water and power on site, so we can at least get things moving with that initial infrastructure in place.
Have you checked for like well water or how we would?
Well, we're going to have to, if you dig deep enough, you're probably going to find water, but you know, it all has to be surveyed, and we have to have specific tests done for wells. We have to have specific tests done for individual home sites. The soil is very important. Individual agricultural sites, the soil is very important. We need an aquaponics greenhouse committee to plan and implement a community organic closed loop greenhouse/aquaponics facility. Like it's a greenhouse with a lake inside of it. Humongous 60-foot geodesic dome.
We're not
with
going to swim in that lake.
No, probably not. Well, you might. I don't know.
But we might.
You might kill my food though. I don't know.
Everyone was working on getting a wind farm going on our family farm, and what we found was that higher elevation, you have your windmills, the more wind there is, but the harder it is to get your well dug, obviously.
Oh yeah, there is a stream on property, and the reality of the situation might be that we have to use district water. But I would like to try to get out of that, away from that if possible. And we should do rain collection and all that, cisterns and everything we possibly can in that capacity to offset what we need from the outside world.
You can put in.
So are you imagining if well water is a possibility? Are you imagining a single more industrial sized?
Like a well. I'm working on the 72 unit apartment building down at Lake of the Ozarks, and it has its own well that serves all 72 units.
Okay.
Something like that.
You can build a water tower of 3,000 to 5,000 gallons, really.
So it's a greenhouse.
My folks had a well for their farm, and we had 7 acres of commercial grapes for $4,000. We had a deep well dug.
Oh, that's not
and put in.
That's nice.
You know, it's $4,000, but that provided 10,000 gallons they just turn on the spigot and it irrigate all 7 acres.
And then we will reclaim as much of that water as possible, and in our clean water committee we'll do whatever we can to clean it up and make it usable again. There will also be like a chicken coop connected to the greenhouse too, so that helps with the fertilization and the temperature. And we may or may not have to install geothermal over there. Geothermal kits, including the air handler, air conditioner, and all needed ground source equipment, is like $8,000. So it's not really that bad, considering how if we do this, we might still have to pay 50% of the total power bill on a greenhouse because they can be very expensive. Like Whitworth was telling me about the kind of power bills they have, and these are obscene, like more than a restaurant or anything like that.
But with a dome and a pond, that would actually...
It will cut down, offset. Yeah, okay, good.
Are there any other animals you're thinking about besides chickens?
Not as a community. Fish and chicken is what I'm thinking as a community. Do whatever you want on your 2 acres.
Yeah.
You want a cow, you want a couple pigs. I don't know.
Somebody's got to raise the bacon.
What is it? Isn't it goats that are good lawnmowers? What is it? I don't know.
Sheep are good lawnmowers. Goats are weed control.
I mean, that's all good. I like all that. I'm not gonna.
As long as you don't have to smell a pig farm all the time.
Yeah, I just don't want to smell a massive pig farm. That's about all I'm saying.
I want goats to stay far away from me or on a stick.
Yeah, you get groundwater issues with that too.
No, I will eat the goat.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll eat the goat. This is a pretty cool committee to be on, the Recycle Reuse Committee. Your job is to find reclaimed stuff. Windows, wood, doors. I mean, if it's something that costs $1, that would cost us $100 in a hardware store, that's what we need. Whatever it is, and the construction committee, which I'll talk about here soon, will identify a list of items that we'll always be looking for. And if somebody finds a deal on it, let the organizational committee know, and they'll buy it. So, Craigslist, scour Craigslist, recycle, flea markets, garage sales, free or cheap, preferably free. Place free ads, seeking reclaimed goods, and say we'll pick up. And that's how we'll find 30% or better of our building materials.
Hopefully.
That's how we can buy stuff for cheaper. It's about 30 to 50% the cost it would be in a hardware store. When I had my rental properties, I was a regular customer there.
Or when we pass like any kind of barns or anything that has been tore down and there's piles of windows and
you know, make a little spot for stuff in your backyard, put a tarp over it until we get some place to store it.
Cool.
Country travels is the best way to scavenge.
They are, definitely. There's lots of wood to reclaim out in the middle of nowhere, for sure. Land Selection Committee. Where will we build our community? How much land do I get for my home and family? What site do we build homes, ponds, or community structures and gardens on? This committee will identify potential parcels of land and investigate them for proper building sites. Plain and simple. We'll all have to agree pretty darn unanimously on what piece of land we probably go for in the end. And the construction committee. Who's going to build all this? Well, we are. Otherwise, we couldn't do it for the cost of an average home in West Downtown.
And it's not that hard to build stuff.
Yeah, per family. This committee will be responsible for identifying what materials, permits, outside engineering, and equipment necessary to build the homes and infrastructure. And once we have a list of actual costs, then we can talk about actually pledging, you know, the time and money and the commitment to actually do this. Once we have a list of costs, we can identify what it actually costs, and you know, then we can move forward in that respect. I urge you to sign up for as many committees as you think you can devote your time to. You know, we will maintain all kinds of shared documents, internet documents that we can all update whenever. If anybody's got no internet access, we'll have to work around that cell phone somebody that has internet and tell them, you know, what you have to add to it, and maybe they'll put it up there. But that's basically all I got. Any questions?
Where do we sign up?
Well, I mean...
Thank you, Olivia.
Your friends, I mean...
I invited anybody I thought was a good person and interested in, you know, something like this. And that's pretty much it. As far as the numbers become magical over 32 people. That's whenever the $400,000 down payment on a $2 million loan becomes $12,500 a person at 32 people. If we get 40 people, you know, that goes down, but we need more building materials, so it only goes down like $500. But the payments that we all collectively share go down significantly. Because the average payment on something like that, with taxes and insurance included, and once everything's up and running, utilities included, $500 a month. Really, per 2-acre house.
Per household. 2-acre house.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about like an 800 square footish house. I mean, a 2-bedroom house, like a bungalow.
Like the sound of that.
So. And if you finish that puppy out nice, it might be worth $120,000, $150,000 on the open market if you decide you want to sell it in 5 years or move away or whatever.
Do you have ideas or plans or some ideas, or some already like whatever fab ideas, systems?
Yeah, I got a million ideas on that. That's the part I'm most interested in.
Yeah.
Really, the amount of time necessary to build exterior walls, I think we won't get 30 to 40 houses.
Are you talking about a conventional home, though?
It's not a conventional home. I'm talking about a container ship, geodesic dome.
Good, okay.
There's a lot of different choices. I urge everybody to at least build with a container ship base because it's going to be cheaper and less time consuming. All we got to do is set them, and it depends on whether you want to be raised up off the ground or whether you want a concrete pads, but the amount of concrete necessary to pour, you know, a slab for a home like that, or a slab for a greenhouse, is about $3,000, $3,900 for slightly larger sizes. Well, you know, it's all about how much time is it going to. This community only works if we all have our houses built and we have our facilities built and we're actually living there and people are happy. And people aren't going to be happy if it takes 2 years to build it. You know.
Well, and my other question would be so do you foresee that all the homes are similar, you know?
Well, I want to avoid that as much as possible, which is why I think we should probably We probably are going to need, and I didn't form it yet because we already have 7 committees, but they might boil down to, more, some committees might be folded into other committees. Like I had a campground committee, but now that's just part of the land use committee, because we want to operate a campground. We're right south of Kipper's Landing and on the bluff.
And we're going to be really fun.
And we're going to be a really fun place to be.
Yeah.
And honestly, if we do this right, legal structure-wise, I mean, we could, I don't know if we could host, an actual burn in Boone County or anything like that, but we could at least, have nice parties. You know what I mean? Events that we charge for. Yeah, and then
that's good.
And that offsets what we need to pay.
And they'll be far enough away from the residential areas to
we're talking like
noise
edge
disturbances and things.
Yeah, I would say that the edge that's
the common area,
area that's closest to the conservation land at the bottom of the bluff.
You want to talk about the community center a little bit idea?
The community center idea. There's several community-owned structures that we have to put up. I'd like to see an area that was like a park and we dug out a large, like 2-acre lake essentially with our excavating equipment that we're going to have to purchase. It all depends on what's there. If there's a nice depression that's a good acre size that we can dig out less dirt for, we'd go with something like that. But a nice park, hopefully in the center of everybody's living areas, so that way, there's a place for our kids to go play, there's a place for us all to meet, or just a place to just enjoy nature, do whatever the heck you want to do.
Be a kitchen and...
So that, just like with the greenhouses, we could take these geodesic domes and build large community structures that have 1 and 2 stories in them for relatively cheap, and we can augment them with containers as well. If you get the risers up to 8 foot tall on a geodesic dome, you could butt it up right next to a container that's 8 foot tall, and you could have like essentially a dome with a container coming out here, there's lots of different things you can do if we need other space. 60-foot geodesic dome is a lot of space as it is, with 2 stories or 3 stories. So, how many people are still going to want to take their kids into Columbia for school? Some people might opt to homeschool, might opt to have somebody within the community, or a group of people within the community teach kids, that sort of thing. My friend Sam put this very interesting way. The organizational committee will also be exploring ways in which we can structure ourselves like the Amish or a Native American tribe, or under several different acts that currently exist. There may or may not be a way to sort of detach from the system, not entirely, but just honorarily more than anything else.
As much as we can legally, seriously.
I've seen and been inside finished structures that consisted of 5+ shipping containers stacked in all different generations. You can see it from the outside. They made no effort to hide it. But when you got inside, you would have never known.
Yeah, and there are ways to hide it.
There are ways to hide it.
Stucco,
yeah.
Where I was at, they weren't trying to. These were like simulated buildings. But when you got inside, you couldn't tell the difference.
Well, you take the chicken wire, that you put up before you put up the stucco, and you can make an architectural element that looks like a little dome that comes off the front. Stucco over it. It can look. You could use the same materials. It could look like a house on Tatooine instead of a box.
In County, they don't care about the ordinances. You can do hay bale housing or whatever.
Well, in Boone County, we have we're lucky that Columbia is the largest population center in Boone County.
John's raising his hand.
We have that on our side, actually. And county fire protection should still apply, and county sheriff system should still apply if we ever need them. So we don't need to elect like a local police force or anything, but we do need first responders and things like that. Somebody has a medical issue, they need to be stabilized before they can be taken to the hospital.
John's raising his hand.
Yes, John.
Okay, so this goes back to
CPR training and involved.
You mentioned like modeling the community after like things that comes up from the Amish or Native Americans or any other really like small tribe living situation for the community. Is it in one of the committees to actually go out and research this tribal living? Is that in one of them in particular already, or is it yet to be added in?
Well, I mean, as far as just the necessary legal reasons we can present to put make ourselves have a legal status that was like a tribe or an Amish community.
Well,
now, the actual living like a tribe, you know, I don't know. I think we're kind of going to naturally fall in our own type of tribal living situation.
But it's not in our governance.
The burner tribe.
Because my friend Sam put it this way: it's like reverse Amish.
Okay.
We're using technology.
Because we'd be using technology. It's not a particularly Christian community or anything, so it's like reverse Amish. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And in fact, there's several different ways I've looked into do that. We could actually have our own independent internet system that if Tetratel went down, or, you know, we just got to buy satellite bandwidth and beam it in.
We have our own servers.
Our own servers, our own Wi-Fi.
And would satellite bandwidth be fast enough to play World of Warcraft? Because I'm on late to go back to that game.
Well, you know what? I know for a fact that you can get internet services there anyways from the world.
Good enough.
Right. But real-time things can't be done over the satellite links that are in a lot of places.
Yeah, I guess that would suck if I was trying to, you know, shoot somebody and he shot me first because
someone there will want to play some Call of Duty game, and if they can't do it, they'll be like, God damn it, I don't want to go to Columbia to play video games.
Yeah, I was looking at T1 through T3 connection prices as well. It's still, you're still subject to that big greedy corporation's bandwidth needs whenever necessary. If they need it for their other customers, they'll divert it. You know.
Right. So you could have intermittent.
And it would also be our satellite internet should be relatively power failure proof. There's that too.
Only thing is storm-proof.
Yeah, storm-proof. Yes, totally.
Well, I mean, when you get storm-proof,
Well, I'm open to any ideas on making our internet cheaper.
Ideas on power generation.
Storage.
Inefficient.
Storage is definitely something that I don't know anything about. That's one of the things, and I don't know everything about everything at all on any of this at all.
I know Sterling General down south has a vertical access wind turbine.
Yeah.
Which is takes less wind than a normal wind turbine to produce wind.
I budgeted up to $1,000 per individual parcel for an independent wind turbine to power your to fulfill any potential shortfalls of the solar array.
Right.
So hopefully we can.
I think that all houses should have solar.
Yeah.
With an option for the wind.
Yeah. I actually wasn't even talking about putting solar panels on anybody's houses either. I was actually talking about doing an actual plant.
Right.
A small.
Each house would be beneficial too, though.
I mean, whatever
you want to do.
Whatever we think works, and whatever you personally want to do in your house too. I mean, somebody might not want to have anything electric.
Yeah, it will produce enough power for.
I mean, you got to look at Germany.
7 homes.
Producing.
I think because my parents wanted to do a wind turbine for power on the farm, and for $60,000, you can get a wind turbine that goes up like 50 feet, and it'll produce enough power for like 20 homes.
For $60,000, I can get 4 pallets of solar panels, though, and that's twice the size of Columbia's solar farm.
Oh, that's
good.
And that's 60 kilowatts. And the average home usage is between 1 and 1.5 daily. So we should be good to go between everybody's mortgage cheaper.
Right.
If you do a combination of wind and solar, that way when there's no wind
and ground source too.
When there's no wind, you've got solar. When there's no sun, you've got the wind. And then if you have backup generators or storage batteries, you bank it.
And then the R35 spray insulation foam that you're going to want to spray in between your wall and the inside of the steel crate. There's that too. I mean, it's going to be so inefficient, it's crazy. And not only that, steel, man, is the second most impervious metal, radiation, all kinds of shit, man.
He's got to talk. He's got to.
So, David, I got to run. I didn't look. I just saw this and heard about it. I was like, ooh, because it's been in my mind for a long time now that I want to find an intentional type community that lives cheaply, blah, blah, blah. Very close to Columbia. Well, I was planning to move, but if this happens, maybe I'll stay.
Hey. I'd like to get out of the planning phases within 6 months.
But my question is, since I haven't had time to really look at the website or whatever you're doing, do you have some sort of, or could you develop some sort of just basic plan, a visual scheme?
Yeah, I mean an actual, like in one place.
Like the sizes of the houses.
Instead of being a bunch of idea threads, which is exactly
what it is right now.
That's what it is right now. It's a bunch of idea threads that I have put together. I mean, I could email you what I just read off my phone for my preparation for this. So anyways, before you go though, and if anybody is planning on leaving, there is a list of seven different independent lists of committees here. Sign up for whatever you think you can do, whatever you think you can bring to the table, whatever you think you have time for.
What if we don't have $12,000 in 6 months?
I understand that concern totally. I don't know whether I will have $12,000 in 6 months either.
So, 2 years.
Yeah, I understand that totally. There's a lot of things we can do.
I do work. Gonna get out of
we need to
I think that we need to have.
Yeah, that's true.
Free money.
We need to get some free, and we need to get the free. We need to get free money towards down payment. Absolutely, as much as possible. Fundraising, ship-ins. I've thought about this extensively. I mean, there's several of my close friends who would die to be in an intentional community who I know are not going to be able to come up with that type of capital. I know that. And it's not. The more people we get, the initial capital is not going to go down. It's still going to hover somewhere.
We plan to hold some benefits
13,
and things like that too.
$1,000 each. But the payment could be half your mortgage if you currently pay mortgage, or half your rent if you currently pay your rent. Yeah. So credit-wise, we will have credit as an organization. We will have to pick the people with the best credit among us to be officers for that to work. That's good. If you got credit and income, you're an officer. That's what we need. Now, luckily, the person with the credit line is not a bank per se. It's my boss. Buys and sells mortgages. That's his job, and he's got a $14 million credit line. He's always looking for some new mortgage to write, some new loan to write. And he loves the idea. He's got tons of faith in me. He knows I can pull it off. And he's willing to loan us some money if we come up with 20%, which is $400,000.
Okay, so what's the initial money for?
The initial money is essentially a down payment on a joint land and construction loan. Land and construction loan, actually.
Land and construction.
And that buys us everything we need to build it ourselves. And
no, wait a minute. Okay, so the initial money is for the land and the construction?
Not for the actual building of it, of anything. We have to build it ourselves.
Okay.
And just like Habitat for Humanity does. We build each other's homes.
So do we have an initial idea of how much the homes would cost? Would approximately...
each home, including it depends a lot on how you're going to build it. If you stuck with my template of like stick two containers together and then put architectural elements on it, $60,000 to $70,000 to actually make it livable on the inside. There is no requirement to finish your exterior. It's made of steel. Boone County won't care. So there's that. If you want to finish out your home and make it not look like a container, you're talking about, $10,000 minimum. Most likely. I won't say minimum because there's lots of creative ways to do things.
Yeah.
But sealed up, windows, doors, HVAC, plumbing, whatever type of plumbing systems we decide to have. We're going to have water taps, and we're going to have at least composting toilets that may or may not have some water, but actually cistern systems are really good for still having the composting toilet and having it flush. Cistern systems are great for collecting the water you're going to use for that. So it's going to cost about $60,000 to $70,000 bucks. But on a 15-year note, this is like if we put it on a 30, everybody'd be paying $200 a month, but we'd be paying for it forever. Put it on, and we'll pay twice as much in interest. So instead of this being, by the time we're done paying for it in 15 years, a $400 million enterprise, because you're going to pay 100% of the note over 15 years. But if it's a 30-year note, you're going to pay like 200% faith on top of the initial.
Yeah, the longer you're long, the more you're paying.
I gotta go in a minute too.
I know.
So yeah, anybody who's about to leave, sign up for something and.
Yes.
You know what? I'm sorry. I forgot.
And there are 7 total sign-up sheets on there.
There's 7 total. There's 7.
If you fill out your whole email and phone number on one, just put your name on the rest of them.
On any subsequent one. That would make things
simple.
a lot easier. So I know we can do this. It's just a question of planning it right and sticking with it.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
I only plan on living in this state for another 5 years tops. Are there rental opportunities, or is this going to feel like buying property anywhere else? I have no plans on buying property. There's pretty much no way
to do this without having the severability of being able to buy and sell your own parcel.
Yeah.
So look at it this way, though. If you build, an 800 square foot house, and it's a specialty house that has, that has no utility cost, you're probably going to be able to sell that house for maybe twice as much as what it costs you to make it. So consider it an investment for less than the cost of rent. Best way I can put it. For less than the cost of rent, it's an investment.
You can build a house and have other people live with you to split the cost.
And those first
households can have more than one adult or
yeah.
Up
to 3 totally.
And you could.
And then you can add on as needed.
People can tack on, and I mean, if 3 named adults per residential structure per Boone County law.
Unrelated.
So, unrelated. Yes. If you're all related, you can have as many people as you want.
We could have a group marriage.
So let's say that so if you and Tara could split a house at $6,000 each instead of 12, and we can do whatever necessary, like set up a fund, hey, give me $20 a week and I'll put it in this account towards it, and the community will keep the money aside for you or whatever, whatever we can think of. But we want to have all of you here. So no matter how you got to do it or how we've got to figure it out, I think that we can put our brains together and figure out a way to do it. So is there any more questions?
Exciting.
Gonna have questions, but I think I have to stew on it first.
Well, this is a good start, and at least we kind of introduced to it.
Yeah, and I'll let y'all know when the next event is going to be. We're going to need to, take this information, start talking as individual committees, and work through some things, and then I'm going to try to do this once or twice a month.
Yay!
So.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thanks for coming out, and I look forward to becoming your neighbor.
Thanks, David.
Yes, you may add people who you think would be interested.
Or not.
Yes.
At least if they're
It's a closed group in the manner that people can't join without being invited. But if you can invite whoever you want. I prefer.
Some people who might not necessarily be interested in doing it, but they might.
Here's the other
But
thing.
they'd have some information that would be useful for us.
I guarantee you people are going to want to volunteer for this, even if they don't want to live
Yeah.
there. Because they want to see it happen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
When are we